Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. The Polish-American heavyweight contender Adam Kownacki is questioning, how good is Tyson Fury really? So these statements have been made in the run-up to his March 7th fight in New York against Robert Helenius, which is of course a WBA eliminator, but I'll come to that later. But his statements, and see here on screen, this is a press release that was issued, Adam Kownacki training camp quotes and photos, and I'll cover some of his comments off about his preparations for Helenius in another video, as well as Helenius's statements as well. But what I wanted to focus on this video was his comments regarding Tyson Fury, and I've just scrolled all the way down to the bottom of the press release. It's almost buried like a little landmine at the bottom, where he says the division is wide open. Right now, Tyson Fury is considered number one, but his previous two fights before the Deontay Wilder rematch weren't that great. So how good is Fury really? If you look at the top 10 heavyweights, I'm the only one with a clean record, no losses or draws. On Saturday, March 7, I have to prove that I belong in a title fight. Adam Kownacki's statements regarding Tyson Fury. So this obviously in itself, from what he's saying, questioning Tyson Fury, opens himself up to some scrutiny of his record and how good is Adam Kownacki, because that's an obvious question to ask given he's questioning Tyson Fury, who just dethroned Deontay Wilder, a long-reigning champion of 5 years. And by saying how good is Fury, is he also questioning how good Deontay Wilder is? Because that's something you can sort of take from it as well. But those two fights that Fury had were Otto Wallin, that was in September 2019, and Tom Schwarz, and that was in June 2019. And I seem to remember him blasting out Schwarz in a couple of rounds, but that was an opponent not very well heralded by fans. It was a fight we probably could have done without. It was a much tougher fight for Otto Wallin. So in that context, you know, Adam Kownacki is right. He didn't look fantastic in the Wallin fight, but he did look pretty good in the Deontay Wilder fight where he won the WBC title. But of these statements, is this just a little bit of hype, a little bit of promotion for his upcoming fight? Yeah, probably to some extent. But also, he is openly questioning how good is Tyson Fury. And we just had a display a week or so ago of how good Fury was, that on his day, if he executes a strategy and uses all the skills and attributes, he can look pretty good and devastating and almost unbeatable. So to some extent, we already know the answer with Tyson Fury, but it's less clear with Adam Kownacki, and this is where the scrutiny comes in, because if he's questioning Fury's record and resume, who he's fought, well, we have to look at his and go, well, Adam Kownacki, what's he all about? He's currently 20-0, and on BoxRec, he is rated number 11 in the world. In terms of the WBC, he's rated at number 6, but across other sanctioning bodies, he's got high rankings. He's number 3 in a couple of different sanctioning bodies. And this fight with Robert Helenius is going to be a WBA title eliminator. And I would note, at the start of the year before this fight was announced, Robert Helenius was not in the WBA rankings. All of a sudden, he comes in at number 6. This fight is made and designated an eliminator for the WBA. So make of that what you will. But in terms of his opposition and resume, at the moment, yeah, he's got a couple of decent wins, but it's not like he's been setting the world on fire, beating top 10, top 15 opponents. At the moment, the best name on the record, for my view, is Charles Martin. He fought him in 2018, and that was a pretty fun fight, but it was one of these fights where he started strong and faded badly. Charles Martin took over the second half of the fight. It was only a 10-rounder, and ultimately Martin lost 96-94. So it was pretty much like the first 6 rounds Kownacki, the last 4 rounds Charles Martin. And if that had have been a 12-round fight, he might have been in a little bit of trouble, because he was fading, and he did get rocked numerous times towards the end of the fight. So overall, the real meat of his resume, it really starts from 2017, when he fought Artur Szpilka. At that point, Szpilka hadn't really done too much after a loss to Deontay Wilder back in 2015. And he got iced by Kownacki in this fight when he was backing up with his hands down and was taken out. Iago Kaladze, that's not exactly the best win in the world. Kaladze is a game opponent, but he is the sort of type of opponent you face on the way up as a prospect. Like F.A. Ajagba has fought him, Joe Joyce, Michael Hunter. All these guys got rounds and stoppages about the same time as Adam Kownacki. So I don't know if we can take too much from that. Iago Kaladze, a former cruiserweight. The Martin win, yeah, that's a decent one. Charles Martin is around top 20, either just inside or just outside. A year ago, he blitzed Gerald Washington, and that was a good performance, took him out in 2 rounds, and that generated Kownacki a bit of buzz. And Washington at that point, and probably still, is about top 30 or so in the heavyweight division. His last fight was back in August, and it was against Chris Arreola. And that was just an absolute tear-up. Arreola, as it says here, 1,125 punches thrown, were the most by a heavyweight in CompuBox's 34-year history. So Kownacki was not really able to keep Arreola off him, but that's not exactly his style, is it? You know, he's a come-forward fighter. It's pretty sort of basic stuff. The intent is clear that he's just going to throw a lot of punches and bunches and try to pressure you, walk you down, and try to beat you up. That's what he did against Gerald Washington, who bizarrely tried to stand there and trade with him and got taken out. But Arreola and Washington, Martin, Spilker as well, that is essentially forms the meat of his resume. And he's got Robert Helenius coming up. And Helenius at this point in his career is on the downslide. It is a fight that Kownacki is heavily favoured to win, could get a stoppage here. But Helenius is a chance, you know, he's got a decent right hand, but who knows what will happen. 70-30, 80-20 in Kownacki's favour, something like that, I guess. So overall, Adam Kownacki's resume is okay. He's fought some, you know, decent names on the way up, but it's not like he's been blasting out anyone in the top 5, 10, or even 15. He's fought at a certain level, and we don't really know, in my view, how good he is because he hasn't gone past that level. After Gerald Washington, it was kind of the time to keep going upwards. But in my view, he went backwards because Chris Arreola, his best years were the best part of a decade ago. And now he's sort of just keeping warm again with a Robert Helenius fight. A guy that is somewhere maybe between top 30 and top 50 at this point in his career. Helenius is on the downslide. They are obviously keeping him warm, looking to position him for a title shot in, you know, multiple sanctioning bodies at the moment. For a time, it looked like he was on the Deontay Wilder conveyor belt, but obviously they've kept their options open. He's high across the board in all the sanctioning bodies. But before he starts taking pot shots at Fury's resume, he needs to, you know, take care of his own and fight some guys that give his resume a bit more oomph than it currently has. Because you can't tell me if he beats a guy like Robert Helenius that somehow elevates him higher than where he's already considered, which is either around top 10 or just outside. He's not going to be able to push his way higher into the conversation in the heavyweight division without taking on some more risk. Someone who's considered either in their prime or is actually a 50-50 type fight, which I guess you could say the Martin one to some extent. You know, there were questions. How good was he then? The Washington one. But he answered all those questions, but they were guys that were top 20 or top 30. If Kownacki wants to prove he's a really top heavyweight, he's got to fight some of the top heavyweights. But I understand why he's taking the sort of fights that he is, Arreola, Helenius more recently, because he wants his title shot. And he's talking it up for March the 7th, and that's a headlining event for him at the Barclays Centre. So he's becoming his own little industry, sort of like Dillian Whyte in the UK has become his own little industry. Kownacki is similar here, headlining cards, etc. So it would be really good to know how good he is, but we're not going to get that answer until he faces someone that is a real threat inside the top 10. Then we will see what he's really made of. And it might be that he ends up stepping up to a fight that just is beyond him, but we need to see it. What do you make of it all? Drop a comment, loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.